Okay, so with the lion face guides, I did the same process as the body guides, using the guide advect and then going in with a guide groom node and just cutting the hair, setting length, making it shorter on the nose. And some of the maps that I created with the face, actually I'll just turn on the fur so you can see. I created a scratch mask. When you look at references of lions, older lions, they tend to have more scars and patches on their nose. I've also made a whisker mask to cut out the fur and the whiskers so you get that dark spot, and I'll just show you the maps. But once you start grooming and you get to know the filters, and it's pretty much just rinse and repeat. Okay, so I made an eye, nose, and ear mask to cut out these areas. Sorry, let me make this grayscale. There we go. And I painted this in UV mode just to make sure that I really got all the eye sockets and the gums, and then it just went back and forth between UV and perspective. I have a face clump blend node. Basically, I wanted the fur to be clumpier on the face and not so visible on the nose where it's quite short and dense. Same with this face clump size, and face density. So with this, I painted out the density on the chin because I actually just did a separate chin groom because the fur on the chin is so much clumpier than the rest of the face. I just felt it was easier to treat it as a separate groom rather than try to have such drastic clump values painted in. And one thing to know is that when you have such a high dense mesh, even if you use the smooth brush, it can be hard to smooth because of the density, because it's along the points. So like this, it's not really smoothing that much. So one thing you can do is use an attribute blur. So this node, I've chosen the face density attribute and I'm choosing the blurring iterations, but even though I'm viewing the node, I can't see what I'm doing. So what you have to do is create a color node, color type ramp from attribute face density, and then once I view this, I can click back on the blur and you'll see the changes that you're actually making. And again, here's my whisker mask and the scratch mask. And what I did was in the face fur density, oops. So what I did was I took the body fur density and inverted it, multiplied it by the eye, nose, mouth mask, multiply it by the face density, again, and multiply it by whisker mask and the scratch mask, and what we get with that is this here. So you can see everything's multiplied, and I'm able to blur the face mask without blurring the whisker part or having to repaint parts by keeping it all separate. Okay, and back to the fur. So It's very similar to the body hair. The only difference is that I generated fur to then clump along. Sometimes you get better results when you feed the guides back into the fur, but you may need more guides because this is the original. Okay, so if we just look at this here, bring down the clump size. That's what I get. And if I plug in the guides, this is now what I get because it's clumping along the guides. And even if I make this smaller, nothing's really happening. But then if I generate some hair and plug this into the face guide clumps, we'll get something a lot closer to what we actually want. And with the rest of the face fur, again, it's really similar with the body. You know, I generated face clumps, I had a stray rate, added a bit of fractal clumping and curling, set the length, frizz, bend. So what this node is doing is it's just adding slight bend variation to the fur, so it's not all so linear going the same way. And again, I created some guide hairs, or sorry, a guide mask to create stray hairs. So you can see here, we've now got little fuzzy stray hairs. And that's the face.